Hello everyone and welcome to the latest in our manufacturing focus live Q&As, Microsoft Dynamics 365 for manufacturers and distributors. My name is Gareth Boyle, the Senior Marketing Executive here at Fusion 5, and I'm joined today by our Director for F&O, Craig Westcott, Manufacturing Industry Director, Paul Hutchings, Principal Consultant, Tom Veach, Industry Director, Craig Cornish, and Cloud Solution Architect for Microsoft, Patrick Short. Before I hand over to our first speaker, just a couple of bits of housekeeping. The first part of today's session presentation will be from the team I've just introduced, with the final 20 minutes acting as a Q&A session. So if you do have any questions throughout, you can ask them via the top right-hand corner of your browser or Teams application at any time, and we'll address them during the Q&A. Also, a copy of today's recording, as well as answers to the Q&A, will be shared after the session has concluded. So without further ado, I'd like to hand over to our first speaker, Craig Cornish. Craig.
Thank you, Gareth. Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon for those lucky enough to be living the life in New Zealand, I guess, right now. But yeah, again, just to echo Gareth, thank you for joining us today. So I'll just skip forward a little bit here, 2 seconds. So what are we going to be covering today? So we're going to start off with just looking at some of the key challenges that our customers in the manufacturing and distribution space typically see, and how we can go about, I beg your pardon, how we can go about addressing those challenges for you with the Dynamics 365 solution. Now, Craig Westcott will join us then, and he'll just give us some customer stories around that. And then our 3 product experts, which were Tom, Paul, and Patrick that we referred to earlier, will come along and actually show us some product and show us some of the new features that Microsoft have introduced in recent times. And then, yes, of course, we'll have our Q&A at the end. So let's get going. Apologise, I'm one of those happy people that get hay fever at inopportune. Okay, so challenges in our industries today. So we spend a lot of time working with manufacturing and distribution organisations. We are dealing with them pretty much on a daily basis. And the 2 key issues that we always find in terms of the challenges that they face on a day-to-day basis are the first 2 that you see on the slide in front of you now: disparate systems and supply chain visibility. If we talk about the first one, it's not at all uncommon that as businesses grow over time, we identify gaps. We identify gaps in process, we identify gaps in the systems that we've got. And what do? We go out and we buy new things to fill those gaps. And over time, you just wind up with a whole range of disparate product trying to run an organisation. Now, those of you that are in that position now or have been in that position before will know that that creates a whole raft of problems for you. You can't keep those things current. You have no real visibility about what's going on. You certainly can't update them. You run into problems with data being replicated. You don't have real-time data. The list goes on and on. I'm sure that's a very familiar story to those of you that have been in that spot before. Which then gets me straight to my second point. No matter where you might sit in terms of my first point there, the second one invariably comes up as well. And that is organisations really struggle to see end-to-end across their supply chain. They don't have real-time data, and they don't have a single source of truth for what's happening. And if you look down the rest of the list, those 3 points that follow typically follow on from that. If you are in that position that I've just described, it's very difficult to respond to customers. It's difficult to respond to competitors in the market. And if you want to expand, how are you going to do that? How are you going to scale up, or how are you going to be flexible in new markets or new processes if you're battling with the systems that you currently have? And we can't forget also our workforce at the bottom. I mean, they cannot do their job. Your production planners can't do their job. Your sales team can't do their job if they can't see the data that they need to see when they need to see it. So how do we address that? This is where the Microsoft Cloud Platform comes in. And you can see from the slide here, there are a few components to that. So we're just going to work through those one by one. Firstly, this is Microsoft's business application stack. So these are the core applications that you would use to run your business. So today we are talking specifically around supply chain and commerce, but you can see there are a whole range of other applications there. And the key thing to note is all of these applications are already linked on the Microsoft platform. So what that immediately means to you is that you have a single source of truth for data. So the same customer that you see in supply chain is the same customer in commerce, is the same customer in sales, it's the same customer that the finance guys see in accounts receivable. So you immediately have that single source of truth, no replication of data. And the other good thing about this application platform is you can add things later as you grow. So you could start today with something simple like supply chain and finance. You could add commerce, you can add HR, you can add sales as your business needs. So that is the core application base, if you will. But underlying that, you have got the Microsoft Power Platform. So the Power Platform gives you access and visibility of all of the data sitting underneath those applications. So Power BI, you would be used to already as your data visualization or your reporting tool. But you also have available to you Power Apps and Power Automate. So Power Apps is incredibly powerful. That lets you as a business user design and build your own mobile apps across all of those applications we talked about before. Now, that's an incredibly powerful thing because that takes away a lot of the need for customizations and extensions that we've seen in the past, and it makes you a lot more self-sufficient in just giving that little bit extra maybe to your sales team that want to go out and have a little, even a simple little app that'll say, when was the last time I dealt with this customer, what issues have they raised, what have they bought in the past. Very simple to do, and it's something you can self-manage yourself, or something you can manage for yourself. And my last little tile down, my third quadrant down here is Microsoft apps, Microsoft platform, the things you see every day. So you may or may not be aware, Microsoft purchased LinkedIn 2 or 3 years ago. That is now a key component of their direction around their HR application. And other things that you also use every day, Word, Excel, Teams you're using now. All of those are also integrated through this Microsoft platform into the business applications we talked about before. Now, our fourth quadrant is a little bit more interesting. This is extensions and solutions. So what is this about? So Microsoft have given us what's a very mature now, a very powerful and flexible product, but we still cannot overlook the fact that industries have specific needs. Every organisation requires something bespoke, whether it be small or large, depending upon what you do. And this is where the partner network comes into play. So partners like Fusion 5 work alongside the Microsoft Cloud Platform to give you either full-blown product solutions or just minor extensions alongside the Cloud Platform to give you a complete product solution, as you can see represented on the slide in front of you now. So just some examples just to give a little bit more clarity on the extensions and solutions. So industry solutions tend to be a little bit wider, in my view, a little bit wider in scale, a little bit more complex and have a larger footprint. They are developed around a specific industry requirement. So you can see from the list there, we work with Linkfresh in the fresh food industry. Crow Howarth have solutions around metal manufacture, and Expologic have developed a very detailed configuration and production planning tool for those organisations that have very flexible or very complex product configuration requirements. So they are fairly large scale solutions that embed within the Dynamics platform and within the ERP product. But they don't all have to be of that scale. So the list that you're seeing in front of you now are smaller pieces of development or smaller pieces of extension that either fill gaps that are just not quite there, or will maybe enhance some functionality that's already there, but just needs a little bit of a push along. So they are much smaller in scope and scale. And you'll see over to the left there, I've got a nice white tile, a Microsoft App Source tile. I really encourage you to go and have a look there. So all of these extensions, all of these solutions you will find on AppSource. So they are Microsoft certified, and they will sit up there for anybody and everybody to go and have a look at. And that will give you a very good idea of the scale of the partner support network and what is being developed for individual organizations or industries that sits alongside that Microsoft platform. So there's an awful lot up there. So just go and have a look for your particular industry or your particular requirement, and I'm very confident you'll find something sitting up there. And just from our perspective, this is just a very quick snapshot of some extensions that we have developed with our customers over the last few years. I'm not going to talk to them all, but if we just pick the first one, for example, our cleaning matrix, that was developed with a customer, Metagenics, in Queensland. So they're a pharmaceutical company. Cleanliness and cross-contamination is obviously a key concern for them. So our cleaning matrix manages or schedules and manages the cleaning and the drying of the various components of their production line, because as I say, cross-contamination is the last thing we want. But we also need to be mindful that the cleaning process takes time, the drying process takes time. So the production planners need to know what lines are available and what equipment they have to use, because a problem that Metagenics always had was not knowing what they could use and when. So if we move along to this slide, this is just an example of some of the customers and some of the industries that we've worked with over the last few years. And the key point that I want to make from this is I'm sure you can recognize a lot of those logos, and they're obviously very different industries doing very different things, but all of these we have delivered using the Dynamics stack with some partner support from us, Fusion 5, as we've gone through. Now, the three or two gentlemen you're going to hear from very soon, which is Tom and Paul, as product experts in this area, they were the solution architects on most, if not all, of these projects. So if there is anything here that jumps out at you, any industry you might have a specific question about or a project you might want to know about, please feel free to ask them in the Q&A at the end. I'm sure they'll answer whatever they'll be able to if you have any questions around that. Otherwise, I will now hand you over to my namesake, the other Craig, who will have a quick chat to you about some customer stories. Craig.
Oh, hello. Thank you, Craig. I might share my screen now. We'll see how the switchover works. Hopefully you guys can see the switchover okay. All right. All good. All right. So as Craig mentioned, I'm just going to talk a little bit about some of the oh, hopefully you guys can hear me okay. I have a bit of an echo. I wonder if somebody could mute. Okay. I'm just going to I'm just going to talk about a couple of examples of customers with a little bit more. I won't go into enough detail to get dangerous. I'll be handing over. If you have more detailed questions, you can talk to the, we can get you involved with the project managers and or the solution architects. But I thought I'd dive a little bit deeper into these because I think it's quite good to tell you about customer stories. It always brings this a little, solutions a little bit more to life. So that's why we wanted to start with this before we hand it over to the guys to talk in detail. I mean, the example of Metagenics, it's a very much a process manufacturing environment is probably the way to view it. So if you're doing anything in, whether we have got a discrete manufacturing example as well, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about this. So it was late 2019 that Metagenics decided to roll D365 out to their Australian operation. They were actually running D365 in America at the time. So this was the next stage. So it was part of a global rollout. So we did have to look at taking the core and then, considering that in rolling that into Australia. However, it was pretty much seen as quite a fresh start. And the footprint covered Dynamics finance and operations, or finance and supply chain now, customer experience and e-commerce, call center functionality as well. So they've got a call center in Banyo in Queensland, and they take calls direct in there essentially. So that was a reasonably broad footprint. Obviously, EDI is a key component for them as well. Craig sort of mentioned a bit earlier some of the interesting niche areas. One of them was the cleaning matrix he mentioned. This operation, similar to food or other processing manufacturing operations, it's really important that the cleaning happens between equipment, between production runs of equipment efficiently. It's quite a flexible job shop environment, so they're moving machines, if you like, between rooms, production equipment, but generally they live and die by an efficient operation, specifically around cleaning equipment and making sure there's no contamination efficiently between production runs. So that was pretty critical. The other area, there was some obviously compliance and traceability advancements we did, and of course warehouse integration into voice picking and things like that, because it's a fast moving environment. So those were some of the niche areas. I mean, the project was knocking on the door, I guess, of a couple of $1 million as a rollout. It was about 260 users of D365, and as I mentioned, across a reasonably broad footprint. And they went live in March 2021. And yeah, actually, I would say this was a really good project. The customer was very geared up. The change management aspect they dealt with very well, and they rolled their sleeves up and got stuck in. So yeah, a good example of a customer who's adopted the technology really well. I mean, the second example is also process manufacturing. A little bit more retail driven, in the sense that they, tied very closely to the big retailers like the Coles and the Woolworths of the world. So they're quite reliant on EDI and that. In fact, I'd say 100% of the business is pretty much coming through those channels. So EDI was a key component for these guys, and SPC got taken over. You may have read in the press, Coca-Cola owned SPC, and then they got bought out by a private equity company. They're based in the Goulburn Valley. They've got in Victoria, and they've got the production facility there in Shepparton, a head office in Richmond in Melbourne, and they essentially, it was another full D365 rollout of F&O, customer experience, touching on some other areas. But it was really getting the core in place as quickly as possible. And I say as quickly as possible, this example was probably a customer who chose to do this really quickly. Like, they chose to roll out a project within 9 months, get a full footprint in place. Because they'd been bought by the private equity company, they needed to re-platform. They were running a very old BPIX green screen technology, so it was essential they got something in quickly. So doing it under 12 months, no mean feat. Of course, given that they did it that quickly, there was, the biggest challenge they faced was change management. It was a very old school cooperative environment, like family environment, I guess, culturally. Farmers essentially bringing all this food together and processing it. So that's the thing that they've probably struggled with most, is change management, but they're settling down really well now. It probably took a little bit longer to settle down post go live into the new system, purely for that change management reason. But yeah, but happy customer, settled. I mean, the other niche areas, supply chain, EDI, and probably grow, like they sourcing the produce from farmers, so there was a receivables module that they needed to do some niche stuff around. Third example I wanted to talk about was a wholesale distributor. A little bit less on, but just because we're not focusing pure on manufacturing, we want to sort of talk about these examples. So this is also a retail, also a wholesale distributor into retail customer. 240 people, 6 branches, 3 DCs across Australia, and various sites in Australia, and it was a migration project. So they took AX up into F&O at this time, and again, a reasonably broad footprint. E-commerce was part of it, so it went financials, or certainly they're expanding the e-commerce footprint now, but it was core system stuff. There was you talk about, like, every one of these projects have something in there where the customer, even though what we've done conceptually is we've taken these guys to a standard D365 platform, we've used an approach where we're leveraging, it's public cloud, so we're leveraging standard functionality as much as we can, really 99% of it if we can, but there's always a nuance somewhere where we might have to do an ISV app. And in this case, we did an ISV app, a trade promotions ISV app, where the Edison essentially, this was also done together with SPC, by the way, so it's a combination of Edison and SPC. They want to incentivize retailers to push their stock through the stores. So they put the stock at eye level, buy level, and they do it through a trade promotion campaign with the retailers. The retailers get a discount per product on if they if they push their product through their stores. So that was built into F&O. So now we've got a module that we can add, an extension module we can add called Trade Promotions, that automates, that allows the wholesale distributor to run a trade promotion through retailers, and it does all the back and forth invoicing and gets rid of any manual need. This is an example of a competitive advantage piece. They went live in June, and they're busy rolling out more broadly at the moment. And the final one is actually not a live project. We kicked this off just recently. They've just done their discovery workshops, and they're moving into definition, I guess. They're moving into implementation phase, and this is a blind manufacturer, Hunter Douglas. I wanted to talk about them, or we wanted to talk about them rather, because they're different to the others. This is much more of a configured item. It's a discrete manufacturing operation. Every blind is different because a window, sliding door, every door is a different shape. So because of that, it's heavily reliant on configurator. So they are using the D365 configurator, and they're extending, or they're modifying the configurator slightly. You saw on Craig's slide earlier that he talked about Expologix. Well, Expologix is a configuration tool that's a really neat ISV extension. We did look at it for them, but then they chose to rather leverage the standard D365 configurator and adapt it to their needs. That was just their decision at the time, which is actually similar to SBC. We did look at Linkfresh for SBC, and in their choice, they decided to just use F&O and adapt it. So you can see there's horses for courses here, but there are about 200 users on the system here, manufacturing blinds, as I said, configured items, and they will go live late 2022. So the project's getting underway. So it's just nice to talk a little bit about examples. That's what we wanted to do before handing over, to look a bit deeper into processes. And right now I'm going to hand over to Tom. So we've got, an update on supply chain. Then we're going to go into manufacturing or production, and of course then move into e-commerce. And we've got Tom, Paul, and then Patrick from Microsoft will also chat about e-commerce. And this is really to tell you what's new, what's the art of the possible, and what you can leverage for your businesses. Cool. That's me, Tom.
Thanks, Craig. Thank you, and good morning, everyone. I am just going to share my screen. So my presentation is going to be a live presentation. I'm going to talk about some of the new features that Microsoft have done in Dynamics Finance and Operations, especially around advanced warehousing. There's a lot of new features that have been developed, a new functionality that Microsoft bringing to the table. But I'm only going to pick on a few of them today, which is one is the wave building templates and how they're used. And then I'm going to go into the new warehouse mobile app. And then I'm going to look at SCC labeling, which is the serial shipping container codes. And then the last one is I'm going to talk about the intelligent order management, and I'm just going to give you a quick slide on that. It's a really cool new feature that's Microsoft have brought out. So I'm going to get started. I've got a demo box here that I use that I've built. It's based on a store that I've created. It is a manufacturing system. It makes bread and then sells the bread. So what I'm going to do here is we're just going to jump in and go to the sales orders here, down to sales and marketing, into sales orders. And I've got a couple of sales orders that I've already created in the system. And the whole idea of what the new functionality that Microsoft have released is called wave load building templates. Now, essentially what it means is that when I release these sales orders out to the warehouse for picking, I can now determine, based on relevant information, which load it goes to and how it's going to get shipped. Now, just briefly, I'll just jump down into the load templates and just give you an idea of what it looks like. So I've actually got 3 templates here. I've got an express load, which says when it packs it up, it's going to be has to go out via air transport or something like that. And then I've got 2 others here, which are just going to be local deliveries via local truck. Now, the system is going to use these load templates to build the loads based on the required information. So it can be used for when you're trying to ship products out through your warehouse and deciding which truck it's going to go out with. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to release these sales orders to the warehouse. As each one is released, so the first one there, that's going to be using Express. So the customer, based on the customer settings, it's going to tell the system which one it's going to build the load for. And I'm now going to release this one as well. And as we're releasing them, what's actually happening in the back end as well is I have the system printing out labels. So I've actually got shipping labels being printed as the system is releasing the order out for picking. And you'll see there that I've got a QR code embedded. Now you can now do this with D365. So if you were to grab your phone while you're there now and actually scan that QR code, you'll find that it is actually that address. So I'm embedding from within D365 the customer's address into the QR code. So as it's printing it, as it's creating these loads, it's printing out the shipping labels as to go with it. So, and I'll just release this last one. And you can see there that the wave is running. Now, what I'll do now is I'll just go up into this first one. I'll go into the sales order itself. And we'll see that this sales order has got 2 items in it. Okay, and in those 2 items, I'm now going to go and look at my load, and the load has been built, and you'll see that when it does it, the load has actually selected the template of Express, and the equipment is going to be a fresh box. Okay, so it's actually designated this load, and it's put these 2 items in here based on the customer's requirements. And now if I go and have a look at the work, we'll actually see that work has been created for the warehouse operator to go and pick these two items. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go back, and we're just going to go back another level, and I'll just go into this one and just give you a quick example, and you'll see once again that we go into the load, and you will actually see that this one is North deliveries. So, and it's going to use a local truck. So it's created a load template, the load based on the load template based on that. Now, it's really good because with express deliveries, you might have a limit that can go into the load. So therefore, based on the rules around that load area, we can actually say how much can actually be delivered in that load. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go into the last one and just quickly just show you so that this one. Go into the warehouse, load details, and you can see this one's got South deliveries. And if I go into the work, once again, we'll see that it's created the work for picking it. So what I'm going to do is go back a level, and now I'm going to bring in the new mobile device. So Microsoft have released a new mobile device for Dynamics, and I'm just going to log into it. So it's a new look, as you can see. So in my menus here, I've created a few menus, but I'm going to go into the NDC outbound. So basically, I'm going to look for the work that's being picked. And the first thing I'm going to show you is this outbound sales order work. Now, what I've done here is I've set this up so that it looks at the sales order itself. Okay, so I can go and put in the sales order number. And you can see here that it's got 2 items in the sales order. It's got that item and that item. And I can now go and start picking this work. So these are the 2 pieces of work. So it's listed the 2 pieces of work for this sales order. But what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to go and pick a different one. So this time I'm actually just going to pick based on the work ID. So I'll go back a section. And I'm just going to bring up the work. And in this case, all I'm going to do is this time is just put in the work ID to pick this item. So you can see there it is. So that's my item. It's telling me to go and pick it from that location. That's the item. It's got a picture of the item, and I'm only picking one tray or 10 eaches because I have a tray of bread is 10 pieces of bread. So I have already prepared a SCC number. So because this product is being manufactured, it's getting an SCC number when it's being created. So I'm going to put in the SCC number. And you'll see there that it's now picked it. So it says it's now ready for me to go and put it out to the outbound location. And you'll see at the same time that it's just printed a new label to go on it. So this is the new SCC label for the items that we're picking. So it's quantity 10. One item is the quantity item type, and this is the SCC label that's associated to it. So now if I go complete, okay, and now the work is complete. So what's happened there is I've now completed the pick work, and if I go back to my sales order here and have a quick look, we'll actually see that there's my closed work. There's that SCC number that I had before. And here it is, same here. So this label would be attached to the product along with the shipping label that was that for this item. So when I created this pick work as part of the D365 environment, when I created the work, I've told the system that it's using the load build template to build the loads based on this information, and it's allowing the system to split the line out if it exceeds the load size. So in my load template, I've actually said that I'm allowed to have 1 meter high by 1 meter wide by 1 meter deep, and I'm allowed 9 kilos. And if I exceed it, the maximum allowed is 15 kilos. So it will then, if it reaches this point, it will actually split it out to a new piece of work, a new load for this feature. And then once it does that, it will then split it out with a new SCC label. And I'm also in my work, what we call our work templates, I'm actually splitting the work based on, so here's my work template, there's my print label that tells it to print the label. And then I'm actually splitting the work by the item number. So whenever it sees a new item number, I tell it to split it out. So there's multiple ways of how we can do this. The beauty of this around this area is it is extremely flexible. And then as you can see, the SCC label comes out. So Dynamics has got full support now for SCC capabilities, which is the next item I want to just quickly touch on. And it has this functionality here where we can actually define our SCC labels, being our GS1 prefix, which is the global prefix. So every pallet or package that leaves out of the building has an SCC label that essentially can stay with it, and it means internationally that it is a shipping identifier for the product. So Dynamics now has this full support to create the shipping identifiers or SCC labels within the system. The GS1 prefix, you have to apply for that through, I think it's Matthews or GS1 Australia as well, for doing that. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is I'm going to go straight into just a screenshot of a new intelligent order management system. Now, intelligent order management system is a really cool piece of software that allows you to talk to Dynamics using the Dataverse to external applications, be it an EDI environment, be it a commerce environment, Shopify, Dynamics Commerce, so all these different systems. So the whole idea is this is like a integration solution for Dynamics. Now it's just became publicly available 2 days ago, I believe it is. But I've been looking at it and reviewing it, and it is absolutely a cool piece of software. So if you're talking about any integrations into D365, this is the way to go. Absolute cool piece of kit. So I'm just going to stop that slide. And the last thing I want to share with you is this environment that I've got running here is a demo environment with Bill's Bakehouse. But leading into what you're going to see next is I've actually connected a commerce environment to it. So this Dynamics environment has got a full commerce environment attached to it as well. So just what I'm leading into. So yeah, thank you for your time, and I'll hand you over to Patrick now. And sorry, Paul. Over to Paul. Sorry. Are you there, Paul?
Yep. Thanks, Tom. You hear me okay?
No, yes.
Cool. All right, so you should be seeing my screen.
Not just yet, Paul. There we go. And if you can pop your camera on for me as well, please, mate.
Cool. I'm broadcasting from Warwick at the moment, so the internet connection is not as you'd expect. Okay. So you're seeing everything now?
All good, buddy.
Fantastic. Okay. So what I'm going to go through today is I'm going to very quickly go through the production process as far as execution goes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with some stuff through planning. I'm then going to take it through to scheduling. I'm then going to take it through to a production floor device. Okay, so this is kind of, we've already done our planning, the MRP is already run. So the first thing the planner will do is they will go into their planned production orders as an example. And what I want to highlight here is that we have functionality in the system that it turns out a few people weren't actually aware of, and it's called a consolidated order. It gives me the ability to have a bulk and multiple pack outs. So I'm just going to show you an example of that and how it all works. So if I just go get rid of that. Okay, so I've gone and filtered here on a particular production pool, which contains all my hand creams. So I've got some hand creams, and the hand cream is made out of a bulk, which is then packed into multiple units. So as you can see here, I can see my bulks as MRP's gone ahead and planned, and I can then see some pack outs below it. Now, the old-fashioned way is to try and work out what that balance would actually be and try and line it up. So if I went and chose one of my bulk hand creams down here, for instance, so if I went into that one there and I look at it, I've actually got the ability under the plan order functionality to go firm and consolidate. When I go firm and consolidate, it will actually say, okay, then do you want to also include your pack outs? So it creates me a holder, which is effectively the consolidated batch order. And then down the bottom here, I can see my bulk. And if I go down a little bit further, I can also see the pack outs that are associated with the bulk. Right, so I'm looking at this, it's saying I need 672 kilos of bulk, and I need to make 8,000 of those and 2,000 of those. Now, if I decided I didn't want to do that, and I say, okay, then what I want to do is I actually want to combine the first of the second and the first of the third runs together in the bulk, because I've decided that 672 wasn't big enough for me. I could actually group both of those together. Now, using the standard group function, so I go and hit group there, it will now group those two bulks together, and it will give me a date of the first of the second. Okay, so if I now have a look at my bulk here, I can see that. And now I look into my firm and consolidate. Not only did it bring the bulk through, it also combines all the pack outs. So it works out what that original bulk was connected to. So now instead of seeing one hand cream, I can now see a whole lot of orders that I've got to bulk together. So if I was decided, yep, I'm happy with that, I would then just go firm. Now by going firm, that's actually now going to take it through to a planned order, and the standard functionality kicks in. It will then turn around, firm that up into a real production order and back schedule from delivery date. like to play the internet for that one, but I can't. Forgot to tick a box. All right, so while that's firming away there, what it's actually going to do then is I'm now expecting to see 1 bulk order, and I'm expecting to see 4 pack out orders, 2 for the 40 mil, 2 for a 125 mil. Now this is the internet. So what I'll do, so I've actually found that I'm going to turn my camera off because things actually go faster if I have my camera off. Just gives me a bit more bandwidth. Okay, so while that's running, I'm going to flick over to a different. Okay, I'll open up another screen. Okay, and I'm going to take this, and now we're going to go and see the production control. So for those of you that don't have D365 already, what we have is we have a whole lot of little menus, which they're referred to as tiles. So if I go into these workspaces and we have a look at this, what it does is that we'll see a workspace, and down here we have these tiles. Now what these tiles indicate to me is different things, and I can create these as I want. So if I looked at this one here, for instance, I can now see I've got production orders sitting in a release status, waiting to be released. I can also see that I've got unreleased material lines needing attention. Then I can also see I've got warehouse jobs that require attention. So from a planner's point of view, I can actually see all the key indicators that I'm interested in. So I know the warehouse haven't given me all my materials yet. So if I now flick over to all production orders, and we're just going to have a look at those orders that we just firmed up. So right now I'm seeing all production orders. I can see the start date, the end date, and the delivery dates for those. Now, what I can do here is under these views, I've actually gone and created a separate one just for scheduling. Now the scheduling, I want to know the start time and the end times as well. And if we have a look down here, what we will see is that we will see, let's see if I can get rid of that completely. There we go. We're going to see down here that bulk order that I've actually just gone and released. Sitting down here, and it is, here we go, 251 is my bulk orders. So there is my bulk order that I released before after I combined it all. So they all sit in there, and I can see I've got a couple of started orders, I've got some scheduled orders, and if I was job scheduling, I can then grab hold of this bunch of orders here that are required for next year. I'm going to highlight the whole lot, and I'm just going to use the standard job scheduling functionality. I'm going to go into there and I'm going to say, okay, I want to go forward from a scheduling date, and I've now decided that I want to go forward from, let's say, the 1st of the 12th. So I'm actually going to make this early because I've got a bit of capacity. So I'm going to flick over to here, and there we go. Let's make it 1st of the 11th. And then what I would do, and if I want to do, is I actually want to sort this in a particular order, because there's no point in having the bulk made after I've decided to pack it. So in here, there's actually standard scheduling parameters that you can actually use. Now, if I go and do that, it's now going to tell me. So I go select descending levels. Okay, it will then resort all this into a particular order. Now, what we've done, so we mentioned before about the scheduling cleans for the chemical industry and the pharmaceutical industry. What we've effectively done here is we've actually extended this, and these sorting options, we actually have a few more, and this is where we take into account, okay, so what job am I going from and to? And I know that I've got a setup matrix in the background, which we dynamically create, and it then decides which is the best combinations to reduce the number of setups. So what we've actually done is we haven't touched MRP because MRP is a locked engine. We've actually gone into the scheduling engine, and we've extended the scheduling engine, and hopefully the next session we do, I think we're actually including that. So just going to go resort all this. There we go. So let me just. Okay, so I'm just going to fire that off on the scheduling, and then going to flick down to the screen over here. Get out of here. Okay, duplicate screens. So while that's scheduling there, I'm going to go back into my planned orders, sorry, my real orders, look up my scheduling. Which will eventually come. There we go. Okay, so what I can see here is I can see we've got these orders here starting on the 25th of the 8th, going all the way through to the 30th of the 8th. We've then got some starting on the 6th of the 9th, going through to the 8th of the 9th. So what I'm interested in is I want to know which of these orders here and what materials do I have available to release these. So what I can do at this point here is I can then close that, go back to the menu, and I'm going to change the production floor date up to here, and I'm going to go all the way through to the 10th of September. Now what this does is it now tells me I've got 21 production orders that are due to be released. So if I then go and click onto this, this is a nice little extra again that a lot of people don't actually realize that it's here and what it's actually used for. So what I have here is I have all my orders that are scheduled to be released. Down the bottom here, it actually tells me if I have the materials for it. So as you can see, the first order here, pure orange extract, it's got a tick beside it, and I can see in here, yep, I've got the materials and they're where I need it to be. They are in warehouse 11. Now, if I go and flick onto the orange concentrate, the orange concentrate says, yes, I've got my raw materials, but what I am missing is the bulk, which is up here that I'm going to make. So I would look at that and I'd say, yep, quite happy with that. I'm still happy to actually release that as a planner. And then if I scroll down a bit, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to filter this by my J numbers. Okay, now I've got them all set up as a pool, and if I had the pool showing there, I could just put a restriction onto the pool. So here's all my hand cream that I've got to do, and as I can see here, I'm missing some materials for that one there, and the materials I'm missing is the bulk, and it's because I haven't made it yet. But I have all the packaging materials for it. So that's happy to go. I'm then looking at the bulk. The bulk, I can do everything in there. I then go to the next hand cream and it says, yep, we've actually got inventory. So I can see here I have available inventory to cover it, naturally except for the bulk. But what it is it's actually sitting in a raw material warehouse and I haven't transferred it over yet. So underneath the hood, MRP would create transfer orders. You would then deliver those to a dispensary. Okay, so when I'm happy with all of those, what I can do is I can either schedule, take the whole lot, or I could actually pick and choose the ones I actually want to do. So I'm just going to go down and I'm just going to release just those ones there. No, I won't. I'm going to do it by start date actually, because I want to release it by the start date. Okay, so I've decided I'm going to do that one, that one, that one, and that one. I'm going to leave the 9th month there, and then I just hit release. Now what this release function does is if I'm using advanced warehousing, it will generate pick list and tell me drop pick list to the guns, and the guns scanners could then go away and pick all the materials from the warehouse. Or most industries I'm coming across these days use a dispensary, so we will bulk pick from a warehouse, we will transfer it to a dispensary. The dispensary will then split that bulk that's been sent over to the different orders and deliver it to the different rooms. Okay, so now that's all released. We drop down here. I think one of them may have created, yep, so it's telling me here some of the production orders have created waves. All right, so that's effectively telling the pickers to go and pick it. Now, once it gets to a release status, it will actually appear over here. So if I go to here, this is our new job card production floor device, and I will just log out a minute. So I'll show you how it actually, let's switch users. Okay, so it looks very similar to the scanning device. At any stage, I could go into here and I can actually see what has been configured for that device. And before I even log in, I can see I've actually got jobs sitting here. And if I want to change the configuration, I just go into here and I could change the configuration to a default. Or currently, I'm using an advanced setup for this. So I can have different views. Now, what I'm going to do in here is I'm going to log into the device itself. So I log in as a room or I log in as a user, depending on which way you actually want to set it up. You can do both. Okay. We have also got a sanitize function here. So with the introduction of COVID, one of the first things that suddenly appeared on these new devices is the ability to sanitize the touchscreen. So if I just go and log in, what I'm seeing here is I'm seeing all my orders for everything. So I don't want to see just all my orders for everything. So what I'm going to do here is I can go in and I can apply a filter, and I could either do it by a production unit or a resource group. Now I'm going to go into here and I say, yep, what am I interested in? I'm just interested in production resources of site 21. Okay, now I go into here and all I'm going to see now is theoretically I should only see all my hand creams. And sure enough, what I'm seeing here is I'm only seeing the jobs for the hand creams. And as you can see, because it is a job card device, it is showing me all the different jobs by operation. And if I click into any of the operations, I can actually see what the operation is. Got loading ingredients, for instance. And if I go down to here to the packing. Now I could also further separate it by machine, so I can actually see the different pack outs that I'm going to be doing as well. Right, so each operation itself also has the ability to have its own individual instructions as well. So if I went and took one of these packing jobs, for instance, and I decide to hit start. All right, so what am I going to do? This is a setup, hence it doesn't ask me for a quantity. So I'm saying, yep, I'm going to start the setup on this. It immediately warns me that I've got another job underway. So if I now scroll up to the top here, what I can also see is I can actually then have a look and see what active jobs I've got. And I can see straight away, I've actually got a cleaning in process. So I've effectively got to finish this cleaning in process first before I can start the next job. That makes sense. The other thing with the extension of this is I've also got the ability via IoT devices to see information directly from the machine. So this particular one, I can actually see this particular vat has got a it's got a temperature right now at 93 degrees Celsius, and I can see that it's been running 280 hours. I can also see any downtime that has been registered against this machine automatically. And if I had a breakdown now, say I was trying to clean it, but the vat was too hot, I could then register some downtime, give it a reason code, right? And these are all predefined, so you can decide how you actually want to set these up. So I'm going to say this is an intentional stop, and I go OK. How long was the intentional stop for? And I'm going to say, well, it actually stopped at 11 o'clock. And when is it going to be back up and running again? Well, it's actually back up and running 10 minutes ago. So, and I go OK. That's now recorded another downtime registration. Now I can go back into these and I can update these if I needed to. So if it's broken down, I can just register it's broken down. And as you know, once it's broken down, you have no idea when it's going to come back till it comes back up. So I could register a stop on this and I could run it out. I'm expecting it to be 2 hours. And then when it actually comes back online, I could go back and alter the times. And so it's inaccurate. The other thing I can do directly from this screen as well is I could also, this temperature isn't coming down, I've got a problem. Right? What I can do is I can request a maintenance. So I'm going to go into here and I'm going to go vat too hot. Okay, and I can put notes down here. 97 too hot to handle. And I go OK. Now, because we've now got integration with our asset maintenance system, it's now actually gone and requested a maintenance guy to come over and try and fix this machine for us on the fly. And as I can see here, it's got it there, and that then would then appear on a dashboard for the maintenance guys, and theoretically they're going to hop in their little buggies, drive over and fix my machine straight away in the perfect world. Now I can also from here, this may have two parts. They may have multiple parts to this machine. So in here, I can also see whatever parts are connected to that asset as well. So if I may have a line, I may have 5 different assets in that line. When I go to the line itself, so this is the secondary brewing, and I click into this, what you're going to notice in here is that you actually see the toggles here change. If I'll go on to the right one. So let's go to 2 first. There we go. So this one here, this particular asset here has been running for 800 hours and it runs at a temperature of 87, which is the correct temperature of what it should be running. But I can see in here that there has been maintenance requests before, so the temperature is too high. Obviously, it's come down to the correct temperature now, so obviously this has been fixed and the maintenance guys haven't updated it. I can also see here I've had some preventative maintenance logged in not so long ago. And if I wanted to view what that actually is, I can go view and edit onto that. And it will now bring it up. So I can now have a look at it. I could edit the downtime. I can add some more downtime. There's a whole lot of things I can do in here. And this seems to be an area that they are still extending. Okay, let's close that. There we go. So again, from the job card device itself or the production floor device, I can also register things. So I'm doing a clean in this room. I've started it. Right now, I'm going to go off for a break. You can actually register your lunch breaks or work breaks or any other type of break you want from here. And I just cancel. Let's cancel out of that for now. And the other thing is I can also record activities. So there may be a company meeting, so I'm actually going to stop the machine for a company meeting, a department meeting, a regular equipment maintenance. Right, so I've decided, okay, then it's due for some preventative maintenance at 12 o'clock. So I may actually stop this machine for maintenance, and then a maintenance order would then pick up and carry on. That's it. Other things you've actually got in here is that we can also see instructions. So if I had some S&OP instructions that needed to be followed for this machine, and this in the chemical industry is used quite a lot, and it's usually connected to a SharePoint site, and what the instructions actually do is they will actually pull the latest set of instructions sitting on the SharePoint site. So it's not a document that you attach, it's actually a link that we attach there. You can also report scrap as you're actually going through it as well. So if I go into this one here, and I'm just going to go report progress. And this one here, because it is a clean down, so it's a primary, so it's considered as static time, and I can say, yep, all right, I completed this job now, and I go update. Okay, because that job's now complete, that should now free me up to start other jobs. Now we also do have a bundling functionality as well, which you can see this bundling button. If I go back to all jobs, you should see a bundling button down here. That's because some machines may be able to run multiple jobs at the same time. And so by allowing that, you can actually release 5 or 6 production jobs to be doing. Mixed module scheduling is a good example of that. Okay, so if I now go down to one of the fill and pack lines, let's choose this one here. Right, I can see the pictures down there, and what I'm going to do here is I want to start it. Okay, again, first part of the job is a setup. Okay, so we go into active jobs here. I can actually see that, yep, my filling and packing, and if I click onto the job here, I can see that it is a job type of setup. So, yep, this one here was pretty quick as far as setup goes, so I'm just going to report as finished straight away. Now, the other thing I can be doing is I can be capturing the actual time between when I start it and when I finish it in the background and posting those as journals. Now, I've got to do that. I want to go to my next job. So I go down here and I find, right, so it indicates to me what my next job should be. That job there started. So this is the process one of that, and I'm now going to start it. When you go and start it, you have the option to start the whole quantity, or if you happen to do multiple batches, say I was doing batches of 1,000 per time, I could actually start 1,000 as I go. And I'm going to start the whole batch on this. So again, by starting this, it will then turn around and say, yep, okay, then so you've now gone and started that. Now, as each pallet comes off the machine, I could even use a scanner, or if I go into here, into my active jobs, and I go report as finished on this, and let's say there's 400 per pallet, I can go into here and I can actually report 400 at a time as I go along. Now I could actually get the pallet size to default on here as well. Right, so it's still in progress, so I don't go and change that, and I just hit that. Okay, then what we're going to see is we should be able to see 400 completed. Right, then a little while later, another 400 come through. You just keep on repeating the whole function. Now at this point here, we could also, if we wanted to, create labels or pallet IDs or SCC labels, because we're basically jumping onto the same type of functionality. Now here you can also see a little banner there, which is telling us how far we've actually progressed in each of the jobs as well. So if I go and click into here, on the side here, I can actually see how far it's actually progressed to this job. So at any time, a supervisor can jump into here and look at it, look at exactly where we are. There again, as a supervisor, I could then turn around and say, yep, well, I want to see everything. So I'm no longer now looking at the machine. So here we go. I've got 11, 12. I've got 5 different lines I could possibly look at. So I'm just going to cancel out that. Quickly get rid of that. Maybe I shouldn't have hit that. There we go. Get rid of that. So I'm looking in now, looking at all units, all resources, all resource groups. So then if I have a look in my active jobs, I've only got one active job going because I've only started one on the lines. But if I had multiple lines running active jobs, I could see all my active jobs. I can also at this stage now see all my jobs in the system and the status where they're actually up to. And when I go into the machines, I could also then very quick flick through. So as you may remember, the last one only had 2 machines. As you can see, I've now got a 3rd machine suddenly appear. And that's because that's running down a different production line, but I can also see those as well. And that again has got a completely different set of cogs attached to it. So that's pretty much it from me for this time. So I'm now going to hand over to Patrick, who I think we're going to switch back to more of the commerce stuff.
Thanks, Paul. All right, just going to share my screen. All right, hopefully everyone can see my screen. Just going to go, Patrick. Okay, excellent. All right, so I'm going to talk about commerce and what is commerce. So from a Microsoft perspective, we offer a complete omni-channel solution, which includes your back office or your headquarters, which includes things like your inventory or your financials. And we have the concept of channels, and they could be your online channels, or they could be your call center channels, or they could be bricks and mortar stores. We also have supporting that our point of sales, and we have 2 options around the point of sales. We have a cloud point of sales, which is a web-based version, and we also have a modern point of sales, which you install on your device. Supporting that, Tom's mentioned a little bit about the e-commerce component. We have our e-commerce component here, which we have a B2C, which is business to customer or business to consumer, and we also have a B2B, business to business option as well. And of course, we can look at these sites or e-commerce sites, whether it's a mobile device, whether it's a tablet or a laptop as well. So our omni-channel solution supports our traditional markets, which is, your in-store, your bricks and mortar store. You walk down the shops, you walk into, say, a flight center or, a supermarket. So we support that as well. We support the call center components, so where someone's taking orders from customers, the customer rings up and says, hey, I want to place an order. And we support the web component, which we're going to focus on here today, which is our e-commerce component. And we also support the emerging channels. That's the marketplace, the social, which is social media, social commerce is becoming a big thing at the moment. And we also support the conversational component. And what does that mean in terms of a customer business facing? So, from a customer's point of view, if I walk into a store, we have a store clerk, and they might be using a modern point of sale or a commerce cloud point of sale to push through an order that a customer's come up to the counter. We also have our consumer or our shopper, which jumps on their mobile devices, whether on tablet or anything else, to see the items that we're selling. And we have the ability, as mentioned before, through call center. You might have a customer service representative taking orders. They might be dealing with returns or whatever that may be. And we also have the ability to have bots and virtual agents. Even as us as normal consumers and shoppers, we go to websites and you see a little pop-up down the right-hand side of the corner or wherever it may be saying, hey, can I help you? Most of the time, that's a bot. That's not really a real person. And you can ask some general questions of those bots or virtual agents. On the business user side, again, we have our B2B component, so we can have that ability to have a website that focuses on our B2B side of the business. So when we talk about digital commerce today, I'm going to be talking about B2C and B2B. So the PowerPoint deck's quite short. It's only 7 slides, so I want to get and show you real products. So from a B2C perspective, business to customer or business to consumer, we have out of the box a fully functional site that you can utilize. We can actually get customers up and running within 14 days. Now there's obviously some restrictions around that. If you come to us and said, hey, I've got 5 sites, I've got 10 different languages, we can't do that obviously in 14 days. You've got one legal entity, one site, we can get a site up and running pretty quick in 14 days. And we do that because out of the box, you can get this fully functional site up and running. And when I do a demo shortly, everything you will see, there's no customizations at all. It's everything straight out of the box. So what we do in those situations is we take what we have, and this is a Fabricam theme site, and we rebrand that to whatever your business is. So in this case, it's an AdventureWorks site. If we look at B2B side of our offerings, we have the ability, as a business, you have the ability to have a B2C and a B2B site. And we can run that from a single solution, a single platform. So the experience is going to be similar, but there's certain features and functionality that you would offer a B2B business that you're dealing with opposed to a B2C, a normal consumer of customers. And we have allowed for that in those platforms, and we'll see that shortly. From a perspective of going through and looking through these sites, it's very similar experiences. So I'm logging onto the site, I can do my shopping, but the functionality between the B2C and the B2B is a little bit different. We'll have a look at those. So let's go and have a look at a demo of these sites. Here. So what you're seeing here is straight out of the box, a B2C site. Now from the top right-hand corner here, I've actually got 2 sites. So if I'm a business, I can run 2 sites. I'll come down there. This is my other site that I have running. And from here, I can go back to my consumer site or go to my business site. So I'm going to start off with my B2C site. Now the B2C site is connected back into Dynamics. So all the inventory items, all the pricing, all my store, my online store setup, all my assortments, my shipping methods, my payment methods are all set up in our Dynamics HQ. So if I go to my Fabricam homepage here, I might look at purchasing something. I could do a search here through the header. Now what you're seeing here is similar to experiences you would expect when you go to a normal site as a consumer yourself and purchasing something. So we have all our header information up here. This is my home page. So from a shopper point of view, you know, I want things that are going to grab me, so we can have carousels here. Now the carousels can be automatically, or they can scroll through, and they might showcase things that are important to the consumer. If I go down further, we can also have recommendations. So we have a recommendation service. We have a AI machine learning driven recommendations, and they can be based on transactions or what customers brought together, or things that might be new that you've brought out and you want to showcase those to a consumer when they first come to your homepage. Now we can use recommendations throughout our sites, and we'll see more as I start purchasing items. Down the bottom here, again, you can put tiles, you can put links, your links can be on the tiles, so there's all sorts of functionality and features you can use. You can embed videos, and obviously you can see images. And down the bottom here, we have all sorts of things that you expect from a site, footer information. If I scroll back up to the top here, let's have a look at purchasing an item. So if we go in here, we'll have a look at what'll I buy men's, I'll buy some jeans. So if I go into jeans here, I'll look at purchase some jeans, and then we'll look at putting that in the shopping basket. So when I come to the jeans, I have an ability to filter further. I might look at categories. This might be certain price. I could scroll along for certain price. We also have ratings and reviews. So as a customer, I have the ability to rate and review certain items. I can filter on those as well. So let's go and have a look at a pair of jeans. So these jeans I'm looking at here, if I scroll down the bottom here, again, you can see as I scroll down, related products, and also people also like. So again, another recommendation service, you're trying to get that consumer to buy more items as they go through your site, looking at items to purchase. So down here, I can write reviews and put a review in. Now, as a business, you have full control over that. So if people are putting abusive things up, you can remove those. So you have total control over the ratings and reviews. So let's have a look at my jeans here. So this information is pulling through from Dynamics. So I have the ability to put things in like overnight shipping is available. There's some information around the item that I'm purchasing and pricing. So let's go through and let's just take a pair of jeans, blue, let's take a style. Okay. Now when I do this, I have a couple of things that are happening here on my B2C site. I can have things like a wish list. I might put it against my wish list. Templates, I'm going to get back to templates when we get to the B2B site. I can add it to my bag. Now down here, you can see, hey, I want to buy online, pick up and store. So it gives you the ability as a business to allow that. You might or might not allow that. I've set up so I'll have an in-store pickup or curbside pickup. So at the moment, and there's some product information down here, I'm going to add this to my bag. And you can see up here it's added to the bag and it's taken me to my shopping bag. Now at the moment I might go, okay, I'm going to go back shopping. I'll go buy something else. How about a watch? Let's go and buy a watch. I'll buy a stopwatch here. Again, similar sort of information. It's pulling information through from Dynamics. Again, I'll add this to my bag and I'll go to my bag. Now in my shopping bag, I have two different items here. Now I can see any discounts that might have come through. So it's going to tell me what the discounts. On the right hand side here, you can see that I haven't calculated my shipping yet because I haven't gone to my checkout. I might have a promo code, a gift card or something like that I'd like to apply. So as a consumer, I'm going to reduce my costs. So here I'm going to go, you know what? I want these jeans as soon as possible. So I'm going to pick this item up from the store. Now this is USA obviously, so I'm going to put in the store location here. And going to say I'm going to pick it up here. So again, as per showed before, we have the ability to have in-store curbside pickup. I'm just going to go in-store for this example. I'm happy with that. It tells me I'm going to pick up in Houston and this one's going to ship to me. I go to my checkout. Now you have the ability, because I'm picking up in store, to say as a business, I'm only allowing certain times of the day or certain days of the week for people to be able to pick up items. So I can come in here and go, yep, this is the time slot. I'll come in between 8 and 9. I'll save and continue. On the right hand side here, shipping still to be calculated. So I go down further, I can see the item's going to be shipped. I'm just going to go with my standard overnight delivery, and this updated my total amount. I go down further, you can see that I'm actually a loyalty customer. So again, if I had loyalty points and they were worth a value, I could apply that to the total amount and that would reduce my total amount. In this case, I'm not going to. I've already got a credit card on file, so I'll just put that in. I'll save and continue. And I'll place the order. Now what happens here is the order is placed, and I'm going to get a confirmation page come up in a second. I've got a QR code that I can use. It tells me an email's being sent to me. It's telling me that I've got an in-store pickup in the Houston store. It tells me what time I'm going to pick it up. and an item's going to be shipped to me. Now, in the back end, that would all be processed through Dynamics. As a customer, I walk into my Houston store. I come up to the cashier, and the cashier's sitting there and say, look, I'm Patrick Short, I'm here to pick up my item. Now, as a cashier, they could click on the item, find the item. They could have a button on their point of sale. So the point of sale you're seeing here is the cloud point of sale, and I could find the customer information in here. Or if I'm just fulfilling that order in a store. So during the day, my job is to go pick items or pack items. You can see here on the right-hand side, the fulfillment status. It even tells me when the customer's coming in to pick up these items. Okay, so in the interest of time, let's jump to my B2B site. So from a B2B perspective, you're going to handle this situation a little bit different. So from a consumer, if I go shopping, I'm probably going to buy one pair of jeans, a pair of shoes, or a watch. But from a business point of view, if I'm dealing with Fabricam as a business, I'm probably going to buy in bulk because I want to resell these items in my own stores. So you have the ability to do that through our B2B site. So some of the things that you see here that we can do, and one of the important ones is before I can, as a business, buy off Fabricam, I've got to be approved by Fabricam. So let's say I've come to the site and go, look, this looks like they've got some really good items I want to sell myself. I can come in here and I can start an application. Now I fill out this application to say who I am, my name and everything else. I might put in some comments, and then that would go into Dynamics, and it would be up to the Fabricam business. Then maybe they'll contact me, send me a few emails, and then I'll be approved. Now, whoever is approved will become the admin user, and then they can add the people from their own business to it. So if you were the Fabricam business, you wouldn't have to go and do all that extra admin work. It'll just be setting up the one person. In this case up here, you can see Jim. He's the person that's been set up. So let's go and have a quick look at Fabricam. So again, similar experiences between our B2C site and our B2B site. So if I come up here, I want to order something here. Let's go this time some sunglasses. Let's buy some wireframe sunglasses here. Now again, it's similar experience here that you'll see, but there's a few things to note. So this one here is maximum quantity. So for my B2B site, I'm going to put for the site, I can set up at the item level or the site level to say what the maximum you're allowed to buy, because you don't want other businesses coming in and taking all your stock. So you might have certain requirements around that. But in this case, I've got a site setting for 11 across the board. So I can add this to the bag. I'll continue shopping. I'll just go back to my sunglasses here for my breadcrumbs, and I'll go down and buy some more sunglasses, and I will add these to my bags as well. Okay, so we're going to go to checkout. So I'm showing you some different experiences here. Exactly the same as B2C. As a business, I might pick up from your store. It might be a warehouse or whatever it may be. So I can do that as well. But important things here is I can add these items to a template. So let's say I'm ordering off Fabricam all the time. I can order this, add this to a template, individual templates, or over here it says save all items to an order template. So in the system here, you've seen that I've got a shoe order, I've got a jean order. I might create a new one called Sunnies, right? So Sunnies and create. And what that does, it creates a template. So next time I come in, I can just go straight in and order directly from the template. So what does that look like? If I go up here to Jim, who's been set up, and I go to my accounts, and I come in here, I can see on the left-hand side here, order templates. I've got 3 set up. I come into here, and I've got my template set up here. Now, if I go into my templates, I can see what I ordered last time. You can see the numbers here. I have options to just add a single line to the bag. I can come in here and go add to the bag. I could add the whole template to the bag. So it gives you the ability to do reordering quickly because you're not a consumer, because you're going to buy in bulk. Some other things I want to show in here before I finish off. I know we don't have too much time here, but we can set up different users. So I mentioned before, once you've been approved as a business user, if I go into manage users, Jim's been set up as the administrator. Now Jim's got a credit limit, and Joe's been set up here as well, and Joe's got a credit limit. So what you can do as a business, you have the ability, when you purchase something, you can put it on an account, and I'll go through the bag in a second. You can request an account statement, or you can request it as an organization. So if I jump back to my bag here and I'll go to the checkout. So when I go to my checkout here, I'm just shipping both of these items. I'm just going to go overnight delivery. Now, when I come down here, there's a few different options under my payment methods. Now we have out of the box payment connector and payment connector. Do you connect up? And that'll take care of your credit cards and everything else. We also have the ability to put the payment onto a customer account. So in this case, I've got Jim purchasing something. It's going to be $355 or so, $302.55. I'm going to apply that to my account. I save and continue, and I place my order. So very similar experience to the B2C. And again, Jim will get an email, and this is the information around the items. So if I jump back over to my accounts here, I can see my order history if I want to look there. But if I go here, I can see what sort of credit is available that Jim still has. Go back to my accounts here. I can also pay my invoices. So if I go to my invoices, once the items have been processed in the back end of Dynamics, now they could be processed at a point of sale. They could be processed by the call center. They go through, their items could be released to the warehouse, as Tom mentioned earlier when he was going through his scenario. Very similar. It still goes into Dynamics. And here I could come in here and I'm going to pay the invoice or request an invoice. Request an invoice, the invoice is sent by email. In this case, I'll go and pay the invoice. Okay, so the invoice is brought up. It is a very similar experience. So you're still going to go through the checkout option. You put in the information here, you might be paying by credit card or whatever that may be, and you push that through. So both of those is the experiences you get. So B2B and B2C. Now for everyone on the call, if you want to look at some of this stuff, you can actually go to our publicly available websites. Now these are test sites. Now this is a different theme. So what you've seen out of the box was a Fabricam fashion theme. This one's a surfing theme. Now what you see in here is some other really cool stuff that we're releasing. Down the bottom of him right, you see the virtual chat, which I mentioned when I went through my PowerPoint slide. In this side here, you can do searches if you want to, look for a surfboard. There's heaps of surfboards here, plenty to choose from. It's even my hometown, Yamba Surfboards. You can do fancy things like shop for similar items, shop for similar descriptions. Again, you see down here more recommendations throughout our sites. So if you want to have a look at this, you're more than welcome. Just take notice of that URL there and you can go and look at it. The other cool thing you can do in here is you can change the language. So if anyone speaks French Canadian, you can change the language here. Won't help me at all, so I'll go back. And there's another VentureWorks site as well, which is our business site, which is somewhere here. There we go, bottom one. So this is our B2B site. So again, different theme sites so you get an understanding of the different industries we can cater for. In this site here, they've got, like me, they've got a consumer and business site. If you actually click on consumer, in this scenario, they actually take you to the Fabricam site, okay? It just gives you the ability to look at things a different way. There's obviously a problem with that, they haven't set that up correctly. But if you want to have a look at that, please do. Please go and have a play around with that, and you can look through all the different options we have around our e-commerce stack. 5 minutes left there. I'll hand it back over to Gareth for some Q&A.
Thanks, Heath, for that, Patrick. And we'll share the URLs that Patrick's just shown there with the recording after the session here. So I've just got Craig presenting for me there. And I might actually work backwards while we've got some of the content fresh in mind there. So I've got a question for you, Patrick, from Sir. What's on the roadmap for B2C and B2B coming up?
Yeah, good question. I suppose a lot of things around those areas around improving the B2B stuff. So there's a lot of industry stuff. There's configure, price, quote. We want to build that into the environment so you can come along and do configuration and work out what the price is going to be at the end. There's some other stuff there we want to do around payments. So in a B2C and a B2B, right, you can use the out-of-the-box payment connector. We're looking at things like wire transfer, bank transfer for those B2B businesses. And things around not forgetting our traditional, even though we're in COVID and everyone's online, not forgetting those traditional retailers that still have the storefront, the shop front where people go through, things like self-checkout, right? How do we build that into, you know, you're seeing a lot of our competitors like Amazon where they, you know, have cashless checkouts where you walk in there, you shop, you get your items and you walk basically out of the store. So how do we build things like that into our solutions? And also social commerce, it's a bit of a buzzword at the moment. So what does that mean? You know, things like, you know, social influencers, you know, they get on Instagram and those sorts of things and they're promoting, you know, they might have a deal with a manufacturer or a distributor where they're promoting their items. It could be, you know, supplements or something to do with fitness. And how do we build that into our platform? So from a consumer point of view, go, yeah, I like that person. Oh, look, they're, you know, taking this supplement, how do I purchase that item? So how do we build those sorts of things into our solution?
Thanks, Patrick. Just another one for you from Steve here. So can you feed customer text feedback from the website back into F&O, or does it have to go to CRM, either or?
From a review process, you can feed it in. So if a customer's got feedback for you, so let's say you purchase an item, there's a problem with the item, or the customer just wants to give feedback. If they're a logged in user, as I showed earlier when I was logged into the B2C site, they can put that into the site. You can respond to that directly because you have full control over the ratings and reviews.
Brilliant. So I've got a couple for Tom here, and forgive me, I don't have context at the time, but Tom, what devices support the new mobile app?
Okay, yeah, good question. So the Microsoft has still left the Apple ISO out of the equation. So it is supported on the Windows devices and the Android software. So, and yeah, so the newer mobile devices that you can get now will support that new app.
Perfect, thanks. And
Yeah,
does the, oh, sorry, go Greg.
I was just going to add to it, Gareth. Yeah, so often, and Tom probably just extending on Tom's comment, often these days for ruggedized terminals in the shop floor warehousing type environments, I think Android pretty much dominates these days. So it addresses the majority of the market. I think Apple's obviously more consumer. So that's sort of, you know, yeah, I guess that's just wanted to add to Tom's comment there.
Perfect. Second question for Tom. Does Dynamics support the printing of SSCC labels?
Yes. So now you can actually load ZPL coding into Dynamics and create your labels out of the box. So in the past, used to have a third-party application attached to Dynamics, but you can now actually do it from within D365. As you would have seen in my demo today, they were all driven from within D365.
Thanks, Tom. Just one for Paul Hutchings here, and we have addressed it in the chat and can provide a bit more info. But Paul, how are we connecting the production machines? What IoT devices, just for the benefit of everyone here?
So there again, there is some IoT connections already inside of D365, but we are having experiences where people are actually using, here we go, can never get this bit right, a Raspberry
Yeah, Raspberry Pi, Paul, you can get,
There we go.
it's a microcomputer. That's one device, and it's actually manageable from a central point within the Azure environment. So you can actually have multiple Raspberry Pis connected and push down your IoT software to manage your data, as well as there are other products out there, Paul, as well. So sorry to jump in there.
Yeah, no, that's good because I rely on you to set that stuff up for me. So
thanks, guys. And I'll just finish up with this last one for Craig C here. So if our ERP applications are all cloud hosted, what does Microsoft provide for backups and security?
Yeah, so Microsoft being an Azure SQL platform will give anybody on that, I beg your pardon, anybody on that platform an automated, or not an automated, a guaranteed up to 90 days just-in-time backup restore. So, and that's something that you can manage yourself. So you can log on to a portal that Microsoft give you, and you can choose to restore your databases at a selected point in time to a date and a day and an hour and a minute. Basically, it's very precise in that regard. And if you want more than that 90 days, then there is nothing to stop you through that portal going away and creating your own backups, and you can store those away if you need to do that as well. And I guess the other thing to keep in mind as well is that your data is distributed across multiple data centers. So that's a geo-replication process that Microsoft go through. So within Australia, your data will be replicated in real time across both Victorian and New South Wales based data centres.
Thanks heaps, Craig. And we've just gone 2 minutes over, not too bad for an event session. So I just want to thank you all for joining us today and really hope you got a bit of value out of the session. Also, special thanks to our presenters as well. I know you put a lot of work into to this leading up to the event. As mentioned, a copy of today's recording will be sent directly to attendees and those who couldn't make it, as well as links from Patrick's presentation and answers to the Q&A. However, if you do have any immediate questions or something we can assist you with, please feel free to reach out directly to any one of today's presenters. Once again, thank you all for joining. Have a great rest of your day, guys.